each other out with this. They both come from, worlds that kind of understand each other. I mean, both of them did drugs at, some point in their life or currently. Both of them are fighting with AIDS. So it's like, as it comes down to it, like as a partnership goes, they have a lot of understanding that their friends are like, yeah, you guys make each other better, so figure it out and stay together.
Exactly. So that's how the Broadway thing. We'll go back to the movie because in the movie, when they get into their place, they find out the place is stripped, as we mentioned earlier. So now we got to figure out a way to get some money. And this is where Joanne's smarts come in, where she brings up they're squatters, so they can't be thrown out. So that's good to know. Apparently, I don't know how that works here. I know in New York that is a big deal. The squatter rule in New York is a big deal. So
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming, because, I mean, not saying that necessarily everything that's said in a Broadway musical or in a movie is always factual, but, for Joanne's perspective, she actually sought the aid of her friends from legal aid
right.
to see what their rights would be. And as squatters, it's like they couldn't just be thrown on the street. They actually had to go through like a whole process to get them actually out.
Exactly. And I know for the fact that is a thing in New York, because I've heard about that like on the news and things like that. So, I just looked this up. Squatters' right laws. This is actually a U.S. thing. This isn't a New York thing. A squatter's right is the legal allowance to use the property of another in the absence of an attempt by the owner to force eviction. This right may eventually be converted to title to the property over time. So there you go. It's a state law.
Yeah. It's just all you have to do is then, like, you have to prove that you can actually probably pay what
Exactly.
the, owner wants for said space.
Right. Which works out here because that gives them a chance to get some money together, and that means we're going to go to Buzzline. Which I was joking around that it feels like Buzzline is the TMZ of this world before TMZ was a thing.
Okay, so speaking of a person who never lived on that side of the coast and only knows the world of the Midwest, so Buzzline isn't actually a thing, right?
No,
Like, it doesn't
Buzzline's made
exist.
up for this. And as a matter of fact, I was joking about this with somebody else. I kept writing BuzzFeed instead of Buzzline because of what we do now.
The precursor to BuzzFeed,
Well,
Buzzline.
I was thinking it was the precursor to TMZ. That's what it feels like. Like they're
Well, yeah,
it's what TMZ is
and it
now.
probably that probably was maybe like whatever where TMZ eventually evolved into. That might have been the idea behind Buzzline anyway,
Yeah, it
or
feels
just
like
any
it.
right.
Because that's how Alexi Darling explains it. It's like we do the tabloid, but we're trying to be a news show. That's what TMZ is. Like that's what they were a tabloid, and now they're trying to be legit news. So, and it worked. I don't know how that happened, but it worked.
Yeah.
But
Although,
Alexi, go ahead.
and maybe jumping the gun, maybe just a little bit into this whole segment, but it kind of also felt like with Alexi Darling's statement on it, like this is what we are and this is what we do. It more felt like the devil trying to convince you
True.
of doing something. More of a, not really. I mean, we want to do this. This is who we are. This is what we want to do, but not really.
Okay, that's a good point.
And it could, because that's kind of always been like the concept of corporate America. Corporate America makes you promises and tries to like make you feel like, yeah, you're important and your activism is great and we want more of that in our world. But then in reality, it's like, let's keep talking about the Kardashians.
Well, it makes them money. That's the truth.
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's basically the perspective of corporate America. What's going to sell? What's going to make money? And so that's the reason why that's the way it is. So, like, for that perspective, Alexi Darling is probably more trying to be more like the quote-unquote devil in the perspective of
Well,
it.
sales pitch.
Trying to convince and sign the contract of your soul, like, here, you should do this because we'll make everything the way you want it to be.
Mm-hmm. So, but Alexi Darling in the movie is a nice surprise. Sarah Silverman playing Alexi Darling. That's a nice surprise. I liked it when I first saw her. I was like, oh, wow, that's a great pull. And she's only in the movie for a good, not even 5 minutes, but she did so much in that short amount of time. I looked this up. And apparently, the money she offers Mark is actually pretty accurate. These $3,000 a segment is actually pretty accurate back then. So, good to know they kept that honest. And then we cut outside, and this happens. Well, during the meeting, Maureen, like she does, was flirting with the receptionist, like Maureen does. And Maureen is pissed at Joanne. I don't know why Maureen is pissed at Joanne. Like, is she pissed because she's not getting any of the money out of the deal? Is it because it was her riot that actually got him the job? Like, why is she so pissed?
My thoughts in that would be she's probably pissed because she was excluded. Like, she basically was like, this is an adult conversation. It's basically like being thrown to the kids' table for the holidays. Like, the adults are talking, so go sit at the kids' table and have fun with them. Where she probably felt like, I'm the reason why you're here, so why shouldn't I be a part of this conversation? Why am I being excluded? So she's probably feeling a little, a little pushed to the side in this matter. It's like, yeah, I mean, in reality, from the perspective of like, Mark and Joanne, it's like, yeah, I mean, it was your whole thing, your whole riot that actually helped him get to this point. Realistically, it was him covering it. It was him having a camera. It was him shooting good footage that actually got him to where it is. He did it on his own, and you just happened to be the focal point of it.
That's a good point. But Joanne is pissed because Marie was flirting, which I can't blame her for, because it's constant. But the one thing she says, because we have the line from the Broadway show, do you want me to be your slave? Do you want me to be your mooch? And all Joanne asks for is commitment. And this is the moment where Maureen says, all you have to do is ask. Joanne proposes to Maureen. And Mark is I love the camera shot here with Mark in the background looking at him like, oh, fuck. Like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And he ends it with, this can't be happening, as we fade out. Did you expect them to go this way in the movie? Because they obviously didn't do it in the Broadway show. Did you expect them to go the commitment route in the movie?
Well, as expected, maybe not so much. Like, I never really would have expected it, per se. I mean, but of course, like, going back to the statement, my introduction to this was to the movie first and not the Broadway. Where, I mean, still, this being set in the 90s, the talk of, commitment and actually, quote unquote, marrying each other, because obviously there is no actual, at this point, legal precedence that I can think of,
right? That
you could actually marry each other. Which, I mean, not to say that people didn't do anything like any big shindig saying we're committing, we're quote unquote marrying each other and having the whole ceremony, even though it's not official. Not saying people didn't do that, but still going to that perspective of saying commitment and going through the whole we're married, wife and wife kind of thing, it's still a different situation to begin with anyway. I mean, usually it's just committing like, hey, we're exclusive. There is no more of this. We can go any direction we want to and be with whoever we want to. It's just the two of us.
Right.
So, I mean, I definitely liked it. I appreciated that because, in a lot of relationships like that, it's like you do sometimes have to actually have that conversation of saying, look, we're committed to each other. There is no like playing the field and playing around and just going out and going home with a new person every night. It's you and me, and that's it. So actually having that, I actually did appreciate that, which would have been something kind of nice for the Broadway. Like, if it was in the Broadway, it would have actually been nice too. But knowing the time frame that this was set in, I understand why they probably didn't put it in there.
What's interesting is they did it here, and it's based in the 90s. And what's funny is everyone's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Anthony Rapp on the commentary track went and said, it happened. It just wasn't publicized. This kind of stuff happened all the time. It just wasn't a big deal. to us. Obviously, Anthony Rapp's
Yeah.
gay, so to them, it wasn't a big deal. Like, yeah, people got committed. We had these kind of parties. This is the kind of thing that went on all the time in this part of New York, and nobody said anything, and nobody cared. So
Yeah, and even so, I mean, that sort of thing happened. I'm not going to say necessarily on the Bible Belt necessarily that these things happened,
but no, there are
but, you know,
places though, you know.
but across the country though. I mean, like,
Exactly.
I'm sure there are other areas too that this stuff happened as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm just basing it on New York, and I know, like, they made a big deal out of it. I don't know if you watch Friends, but they made a big deal in the first season of Friends. They did a lesbian wedding in the first season of Friends. Like, people forget that happened, but that was in the first season. That's in 1996. That's way ahead of its time to do that.
Oh yeah.
So, it happened before. So that's where we are. That's where we leave our movie and our Broadway show. This was a lot. We did a lot, and this is a lot of fun. And we went longer than I ever thought we'd be with this. This is great.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on too in this little segment too. I mean, especially between, you know, both going in the movie and the Broadway perspective.
exactly.
There was a lot going on.
Exactly. So, well, thank you, Matt, for taking time out. I know you're a busy, busy man with a new child and a job and everything else. So thanks for taking time out to do the show. This is a lot of fun.
No problem. Yeah, I know. Actually, I really enjoyed this. I always love being part of your podcast. So thank you for having me.
No problem. I'll just get the plugs out real fast. Part of the Filling the Void podcast network. You can hear me every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday on Clerks Minute. We're covering Clerks 2 minutes at a time. And also every single Friday on the Blake and Sal Show. It is Tuesday, so after listening to this, stay tuned on the network. Go and download Blake and Sal Show Year 1. It is the show I'm putting up our first year of the Blake and Sal Show in order. So go take a look at that. It's a lot of really interesting, fun stuff from 2013, 2014 that's going up right now. All right. You can find us all over the place at No Days But Today, on Twitter, on Facebook. Leave some messages. Tell me what you think. And Matt, again, thank you so much for coming on. And we'll be back next week with Liz from Me's Girls Minute, who's going to be coming on for the next 2 weeks to talk about Take Me or Leave Me and Without You. So it's going to be a lot of fun the next 2 weeks. Thank you all for listening to the show. Have a good day, everybody.
No day but